Can everybody hear me? Okay, let me start my background music playlist. Found a bunch of Creative Commons scary music because it's a scary holiday today. Am I clear enough over the music? Let's see. Okay, is the music a little quieter? I think I can also turn it down this way a little. Is that still basically clear? Okay. I guess I'm gonna do this today for probably about 2 hours. It's like 4 to 6 p.m. in my time. Yeah, I'll give it a little while for more people to show up. I hope people aren't too scared by music this scary. setup I'm using doesn't actually show me exactly how many people are hanging out in the chat at all, so it's a mystery. I guess I'm supposed to ask how everybody is, how everybody's doing on the spookiest holiday today. Oh, really? There's actually most of the monsters and like creepy close-ups and anything you could describe as monstrous in SpongeBob has been designed for like 10 years now by the same artist I actually followed before he worked on SpongeBob. It's kind of sad how much the rest of the internet, I'll see them like really ragging on his drawings. So wait, how many people are like already like familiar at all with monsters from Dungeons and Dragons? Okay, actually, a better question is how many people know what is in this the photo I took. The book I'm going to be reading today, I actually received when I was I received the real version when I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I didn't really have much prior understanding of what a role-playing game actually is. Yeah, this rubber Carrion crawler toy is, I think it's the oldest personal possession I can actually remember having. But I also had no idea what it was for the first few years of my life. I have so many thoughts on probably each and every entry in this book. We're probably only going to get like 10% into the book itself. It is the second monster in the book, the ankheg. Yeah, around the same time that I had this Carrion crawler, I had a lot of the original plastic rust monsters and bullets and other monsters that were originally just nameless generic toys. I don't know. There's so many monsters in D&D now. I probably don't have a least favorite, but there's probably dozens and dozens that just kind of blend together in my mind. Like I'm just kind of like very neutral on them. I think any of them that are like just 90% a ripoff of something Lovecraft, they're almost all kind of the same. Except I guess I do really love the gibbering mouther, and that is basically like a better Shoggoth. I never played Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop RPGs until probably my mid-20s, and only for like the 1 year that I had any local friends who played before I had to move. But I spent my childhood obsessively tracking down just the monster books for every tabletop RPG I could find. There used to be so many. When I was a kid, I could go into Barnes and Noble or Walden Books, and there'd be an entire shelf of just like 30 different monster manuals and monster manual knockoffs for D&D and all kinds of other games. I would sit there and just like my mother would actually drop me off for hours at bookstores so that I could just look through the books, and I would bring like a notebook and a pen, and I would just like draw and take notes and like categorize, whatever I liked myself. I kind of like made my own monster journals, basically. Yeah, this old one that we'll be reading is very brief for a lot of the monsters, and spends a lot of their descriptions just describing gameplay stuff, which I'll probably skim over. But then by second edition, they were going into so much detail, so much world building for every single monster. And then third edition kind of like shrank that back a bit again. Especially later third edition. I remember some books where they didn't even give like lore to any monsters. They just had like a list of brief trivia facts that players could roll for, like with their wisdom or something like that. Oh, I haven't been good at catching up on my emails the last few days. It's been a whole lot of spam. Like spam bots, advertisers, just junk mail. Offers for like insurance and like herbal medicine and weird stuff. Well, that's always been the case. Like, as long as email has existed, most emails get bombarded with that every now and then. I just have to get around to going through and cleaning it up. No, I don't know what an anonymous lemur would be. I pretty much haven't been able to look at almost anything online. I've just really been just watching videos while I draw or write. I have music credits I can put up towards the end. They're all public domain stuff that I found kind of hastily. here. There we go. We actually have our own 3D printed Willis design that I have had printed before. We also now we own our own 3D printer, so I'm gonna start trying to 3D print a lot of different things. Actually, would people rather see the whole width of the page like this, or should I zoom way in and do one monster at a time like this? I guess that's a little too zoomed in. Not quite starting yet. Just kind of still just kind of setting up a little. But yeah, I won't be able to talk about or answer anything to do with my webcomic or my game projects or anything like that while we're doing this. I'm gonna be staying strictly on topic, especially because not everybody coming in is a reader of my other stuff anyway. I'll probably I could stick around a little while after we're done this though, and just like chat or something. I just went live a few minutes ago, and I'm gonna officially start in 1 to 5 more minutes probably. Okay, it's officially 4 p.m. where I am. Yeah, this book was literally my introduction to the concept of role-playing games. Yeah, I was talking about this a little bit a few minutes ago, but yeah, I was born in the like mid '80s, and it's weird. Dungeons and Dragons had kind of peaked in popularity, like right when I was born, enough that it had a TV cartoon and everything. But then it kind of faded right back to like an obscure like nerd hobby. Yeah, I had a lot of little monster toys when I was a little baby that coincidentally were also used as D&D monsters. Even before I knew that, I was really fascinated by them. I used to draw them, and I was making monster manuals of my own before I knew that monster manuals were an actual thing. I don't know. It's really like a whole story, kind of. But yeah. One day my grandmother found me this very book at a thrift store, and she like surprised me with it because she knew that I was so into creatures and monsters, and it just like blew my mind. I carried this book around with me everywhere. I was a little child just dragging the first edition Monster Manual around like it was like a Bible. I read it cover to cover over and over for weeks. No, actually, it's not a player race. They just used just the stats and things that they used were a little different at the time. I never got to play D&D until I was probably until my mid-20s. For like a year I played it before I had to move. But yeah, I guess we should get officially started. The first monster in this book is the aerial servant, which you've been staring at. Some of you have been staring at for a while. A semi-intelligent form of an air elemental. Typically encountered only due to conjuration by a cleric. Although these creatures roam the ethereal and astral planes, when encountered, there can be dimly seen. Normally invisible, do not fight per se, but they are exceedingly strong and very fast. They can carry weight in excess of 10,000 gold pieces, and if they grasp any creature, it requires an 18 strength to have any chance of breaking free. Travel at twice the speed of the invisible stalker. That's later in the book. Yeah, this one has no illustration because it is invisible. It is just made of air. It's air that can strangle you. Or specifically, it's sentient air that a cleric can summon and give like a task, like a mission. If the aerial serpent is frustrated from completion of its assigned mission, it becomes insane, returns to the cleric which sent it forth, and attacks as a double-strength invisible stalker. So this first one is just air that air that gets really mad very easily. It doesn't really sound worth it. I mean, this implies frustrated from completion of its assigned mission. Like, does that mean it gets frustrated when it can't complete the mission, or when it does complete the mission? Like, does it always come back and start strangling you to death when it's done? I don't know. Now, it's kind of a weak monster to begin the whole book on. The ankheg is a lot more interesting. I think that's how it's pronounced. Ankheg? Ankheg? The ankheg burrows through the earth like an earthworm, preferring soil rich in minerals and organic matter. Thus, it will usually be found in forests and choice agricultural land. This causes farmers great consternation. I would think that how big is this thing? 10 to 20 feet long. Yeah, I would think that a 20-foot long earwig could cause some consternation to a farmer. Likes to supplement its earthly diet of soil with a bit of fresh meat, human or otherwise. Since its mouth is not designed to rip and tear meat, its mandibles crush its prey and secrete a digestive enzyme, causing an additional 1 to 4 points per turn until the prey is completely dissolved. Yeah, that's a lot. That's significant consternation, I would think. Although those are pretty. Those look like mandibles that evolved to tear stuff. That's not the anatomy of something that usually just eats dirt. If sorely pressed in battle, it is able to squirt its digestive acids 30 feet once per 6 hours. However, when it does this, it cannot digest anything for the same length of time, so it usually will bite. A squirt of digestive acid causes that much hit points of damage to the creature struck. Half the amount of the creature makes its saving throw. Favorite method of attacking is lying 5 to 10 feet underneath the ground until its antenna detects a likely victim passing overhead. Then it burrows out directly underneath the prey and grabs it. This is such a classic monster by now, but I feel like it's not appreciated much. I mean, it's like one of the main monsters in D&D is just this big, long, acid-spitting, burrowing bug that is apparently it's just an agricultural pest, I guess. It messes with farmers. But they never really acknowledge it as an arthropod. I never see any actual official book describing this as a kind of arthropod or insect. It's never really given a taxonomy. But yeah, something that burrows like an earthworm and mostly eats dirt would not really have wouldn't have a face like this. This face is pretty much lifted from a tiger beetle, which is purely carnivorous. It could just be a big weasel, a really weird-looking weasel in a magical setting where a lot of weird stuff happens. That's true, but although, yeah. But it's also not defending a nest. Like, I guess it just has jaws like that for when it does eat meat. Yeah, I guess it would have only evolved big eyes because apparently it pops out of the ground and hunts at times. The very next entry is another arthropod, the ant giant. The giant ant's description is not very exciting. It just kind of gives you all these stats and figures. They actually do have a picture of the giant ant. Fortunately, it's just that it's at the bottom of the page. There's a whole shit ton of giant ants fighting this knight and eating this guy. Yeah, there were too many giant ants to fit in this space. So that was a very good design decision for this book. They're nothing compared to like Them, the movie, the giant ant movie called Them. But as far as ants go, they are alarmingly large. The queen ant has 10 hit dice, but she neither moves nor attacks. That's not realistic. Ant queens are actually pretty vicious, and they're pretty mobile. If she is killed, the other ants will become confused, as if they were under the influence of that spell. That's also not realistic. Ants don't really know instantly when their queen is dead, and they don't lose any of their organization because the queen does not actually give commands. Yeah, judging by what existing ants can kill and tear apart, I think ants would only have to be like 5 inches long to just obliterate human society. Yeah, the next monster over is the ape, carnivorous. Look at that ape. The carnivorous ape is a larger, stronger, and very aggressive relative of the gorilla. The beast has fair intelligence, an IQ of 70 plus, and is very cunning. It hungers particularly for human flesh. The eyesight of the ape is keen, as is its hearing and its sense of smell. So it is surprised only on a roll of 1. If it strikes its opponent with both hands, the ape does an additional 1d8 hit points of rending damage. So it's literally just a gorilla that only wants to eat people, which is one of the scariest things I think I can imagine. I like how they drew it with like dinosaur claws. I don't think that's what an ape's feet look like. Yeah, then right after the carnivorous ape is just the regular ape, gorilla. The typical ape is found only in lonely tropical forest regions. It is non-aggressive and shy, but if threatened or cornered, will fight fiercely. So yeah, the original Monster Manual has just normal gorilla in there, just in case. In any modern book, they would have rolled these both into the same entry. They would have just had a page on apes. I would have included lore that the carnivorous ape gets along with regular apes. I think like if you encounter a bunch of normal gorillas in the D&D world, it's like some percentage of them are actually the flesh-eating gorillas. Huh, yeah, you're more likely to encounter the carnivorous ape than the normal ape. I guess that makes sense, because the carnivorous ape is looking for you when you step into its territory. The regular ape doesn't want anything to do with you. Yeah, then we have the axbeak. I always liked this like goofy, like toucan eagle face on this thing. The way it's looking at the reader. Axbeaks are prehistoric carnivorous flightless birds. I like that because that basically existed. This is pretty much just the actual like terror bird that we used to have, but they gave it its like own name in the D&D world. They are very fast runners and aggressively hunt during daylight. An axbeak resembles an ostrich in its lower portions with a strong neck and a heavy, sharp beak. And that is all they have to say about the axbeak. In this very book, there's going to be a whole long section of dinosaurs. There's actually so many dinosaurs in this book, I don't know if I'm going to read every individual dinosaur. But we'll see, I guess, when we get up to those. Baboon, another ape. And it's once again, it's just a normal baboon. Baboons are basically herbivorous group animals. The tribe will be led by 2 to 8 large males. Half the tribe will be young, which will not attack. If the home territory of a tribe is invaded, the baboons will attempt to drive the invaders off. There's 90% likely they will flee if faced by determined resistance. Badger. There's a lot of normal animals in this book. I don't know. I think they should have given every ape a carnivorous version, I think. Yeah, well, in later books, later editions, like 3rd edition and stuff, they started moving all the normal animals to the back of the book in just like little like condensed like text tables. But yeah, in this original edition, they included just regular animals among the monsters. Sometimes like regular people were also had entries written up as monsters. Monster was just any living thing that you can encounter and conceivably fight in some way. So yeah, the badger. These burrowing animals are typically solitary. Their speed accounts for their high armor class rating. Their fierce spider. Oh, there is a footnote about the giant badger. This is a very rare variety of badger which grows to twice the size of the normal sort. That just twice the size. That's impressive, but in a fantasy setting, I would think giant badger would mean like 100 feet long. Let's see, badger. Here's another prehistoric animal, Baluchitherium. What's it have to say? Prehistoric ancestor of the rhinoceros. If it still exists in this setting, they wouldn't think of it as prehistoric, would they? I don't know. I don't think that's true either. Maybe it is. I don't remember what this animal was in real life. A huge herbivorous mammal with a tendency to charge at anything nearby in order to trample it. If 2 are encountered, they will be a mated pair. Aww. If 3 are encountered, the third will be a young Baluchitherium. Barracuda, normal barracuda. Inhabit warm salt waters. These predatory fish are lightning quick, going from a motionless state to full speed in a single melee round. They attack any prey which is injured, appears helpless, or is relatively small. There's the first illustration of the D&D basilisk, I think. I think this was the first one. A reptilian monster. Although it has 8 legs, its slow metabolic process allows it only slow movement. While it has strong, toothy jaws, the basilisk's major weapon is its gaze, by means of which it is able to turn to stone any fleshly creature which meets its glance. I like the word fleshly. I've never heard it outside of this book. If its gaze is reflected so that the basilisk sees its own eyes, it will itself be petrified, but this requires light at least equal to bright torchlight and a good, smooth reflector. Basilisks are usually dull brown with yellowish underbellies. Their eyes are glowing pale green. Oh yeah, the rest of this is kind of... Oh wait, no, here we go. Able to see in both the astral and ethereal planes. In the former plane, its gaze kills, while in the latter it turns victims to ethereal stone, which can only be seen by those who are in that plane or can see ethereal objects. I can't remember if the original authentic basilisk also turned people to stone or if it just killed you. I loved this illustration when I was a kid. I kept trying to recreate it. I kept trying to copy this picture exact to paper, all the little head scales and everything. I don't think I was ever very successful. Normal bears in black bear, brown bear, and cave bear form. All of these ursoids are omnivorous, although the gigantic cave bear tends towards a diet of meat. All have excellent hearing and smell, but rather poor eyesight. The grizzly bear is a brown bear of very aggressive disposition. Black bears are usually not aggressive, brown bears are, and cave bears are quite aggressive. And that's it, just bears. There's bears and then the giant beaver. And these intelligent but docile creatures will flee any attack if at all possible, but if cornered, or if their huge lodge is threatened, they will fight fiercely. Their habitat is a lake created by their vast dam, and in the middle of the body of water thus created, they build a veritable castle of mud and logs, with walls not less than 5 feet thick. The entire community lives in this single dwelling, and if an alarm, tail slap on the water, is sounded, all beavers rush to this place to defend it and their young. For every adult beaver there will be a young one. Giant beavers sometimes trade, and if coins or other valuables are offered, they can sometimes be persuaded to undertake the building of dam-like constructions if there is water near the building site. These are intelligent beavers you can hire as construction workers. They prize highly certain barks and tender twigs, notably birch, aspen, and willow. Their hides are worth 502,000 gold pieces each. But the thing is, they're only 6 feet long, and beavers are already fairly large. I guess 6 feet is big, but it's not giant big to me. And it's more interesting that they're so smart. I think intelligent villages of big beavers are something that should have remained should have remained a staple of this game world. I think that they made a very big mistake moving on from the largish beavers. But yeah, the next one we've got is beetles. There's they got stats for 6 kinds of giant beetle. It's weird that all those apes were given their own entries, but the beetles are all kind of rolled together. And they got the bombardier beetle, the boring beetle, the fire beetle, the rhinoceros beetle, the stag beetle, and the water beetle. So let's see. In general, all beetles are basically unintelligent and always hungry. I disagree with that stereotype, but whatever. They feed on virtually any form of organic material, including other sorts of beetles. They taste by means of their antennae or feelers. If the substance is organic, the beetle then proceeds to grasp it with its mandibles, crush it up, and eat it. Because of this thorough grinding, nothing actually eaten by giant beetles can be revived in any manner short of a wish. Beetles do not hear or see well, relying primarily on taste and feel. Bombardier beetle. This beetle is usually found in wooded areas above ground. It feeds on offal and carrion primarily, gathering huge heaps of such material in which to lay its eggs. That is not what normal bombardier beetles do. This is a fantasy bombardier beetle. If this beetle is attacked or disturbed, there's a 50% chance it will turn its rear towards the attacker and fire off an 8 by 8 by 8 foot cloud of reeking, reddish, acidic vapor from its abdomen. The real life bombardier beetle is actually more fantastic than that, because it's not just acid that a bombardier beetle sprays. A bombardier beetle, it mixes different chemicals in its body that reach boiling temperatures as they emerge. Although they do also reek and taste terrible to predators. Cloud does damage. Stuns things. No, 20% chance of stunning any creature with a sense of hearing. I guess it's a very loud beetle fart. I love this drawing of the just the big Hercules beetle by the cute little farmhouse. I always really liked that. Boring beetle. These beetles favor rotting wood and similar organic material upon which to feed, so they are usually found inside huge trees or in unused tunnel complexes underground. In the latter areas, they will grow molds, slimes, and fungi substances for food, starting such cultures on various forms of decaying vegetable and animal matter and wastes. These creatures are individually not much greater intelligence than others of their kind, but it is rumored that groups develop a communal intelligence, which generates a level of consciousness and reasoning ability approximating that of a human brain. I really like that ironically, the boring beetle is the most interesting beetle here, I think. Especially the suggestion that they might actually farm slime. Like, they farm slimes, as in the monsters. Which they, feed on decaying vegetable and animal matter. So there could be, like, a whole nest of boring beetles, and they're, like, they're growing slimes on, like, the local populace. Like, that's actually, that's a pretty good, that would be a pretty good hook for an adventure scenario. But then there's the fire beetle, the smallest of the giant beetles. Fire beetles, nevertheless, are capable of delivering serious damage with their powerful mandibles. They are found both above and below ground, being primarily nocturnal. Fire beetles have 2 glands above their eyes and 1 near the back of their abdomen, which give off a red glow. For this reason, they are highly prized by miners and adventurers, as this luminosity will persist for 1 to 6 days after the glands are removed from the beetle. I don't like that. I don't like that they kill the beetle. Can't they just like keep it in like a little cage like a canary? How they said it was the littlest of the giant beetles. Let's see size. Now the fire beetle is only 2.5 feet long. The fire beetle is like the size of like a dog. Rhinoceros beetle. This uncommon monster inhabits tropical and subtropical jungles. They roam these regions searching for fruits and vegetation, crushing anything in their paths. The horn of a giant rhinoceros beetle extends 6 feet. And that's all they have to say about the rhinoceros beetle. They have more to say about the stag beetle. These woodland-dwelling beetles are very fond of grains and similar growing crops, so they will sometimes become highly pestiferous. That's a good word. People don't say pestiferous enough. And raid cultivated lands. Like other beetles, they have poor sight and hearing, but they will fight if attacked or attack if they encounter organic material they consider food. The giant stag beetle's 2 horns are usually not less than 8 feet long. I've had videos up with my voice in them for kind of a long time. I used to also voice characters in my Flash cartoons a long time ago. Water beetle. The giant water beetle is found only in fresh water of not less than 30 feet deep. As they are voracious eaters, they prey upon virtually any form of animal, but will eat almost anything. Slow and ponderous on land, they move very quickly in water. Giant water beetles hunt food by scent and vibration. Here's the original beholder. Pretty big deal, I guess. To this day, I think this is one of the best illustrations ever made of the beholder. I think beholders ever since this drawing have tried too hard to look cool. In my mind, beholders do not look cool. They look like this. They look like Nickelodeon's Real Monsters or something. They're just like a goofy, scaly ball with a silly mouth. That's a beholder. The beholder, eye tyrant, sphere of many eyes, is most frequently found underground, although it infrequently will lair in desolate wildernesses. The globular body of this monster is supported by levitation, and it floats slowly about as it wills. Atop the sphere are 10 eye stalks, while in its central area are a great 11th eye and a large mouth filled with pointed teeth. The body is protected by a hard, chitinous covering. The creature's eye stalks and eyes are also protected, although less well. Because of its particular nature, the beholder is able to withstand the loss of its eye stalks. These members are not computed as part of its hit point damage potential, and lost eye stalks will eventually grow back. Takes a week. The body of the monster can withstand 2/3 of its total damage potential, while the great central eye can withstand 1/3 this total. There's a lot of gameplay babble. Let's say eyes. The various eyes of the beholder each have a different function. Typically, only the central eye, plus 1 to 4 of those on stalks, are able to function, considering that the attack is coming from an arc 90. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, these are the different powers that the original Beholder's eyes had. These little eye stalks had a Charm Person, Charm Monster, Sleep, Telekinesis, Flesh to Stone Ray, Disintegrate Ray, Fear, Slow, Cause Serious Wounds, and Death Ray. I like the Cause Serious Wounds spell in this game. The idea of it, just you cast a spell and it just hurts somebody. I feel like it's kind of redundant with the Death Ray. And yeah, the big central eye always has an anti-magic ability. I think that's remained constant with Beholders. Nature. The Beholder is hateful, aggressive, and avaricious. They will usually attack immediately. If confronted by a particularly powerful party, there's a 50% chance they will listen to negotiations, either to be bribed not to attack, or to pay a ransom to not be attacked. Gotta pay the Beholder toll. Depending on the strength of the opposing party, they can speak their own language as well as that tongue known to lawful evil creatures. This was a while before they really expanded the Beholders into this whole like cosmic horror phenomenon. Like within just a few years of this book, there was just like dozens of Beholder variations and all this deep lore about like the main character trait of Beholders came to be that they are very, very racist. Just against other Beholders. Beholders absolutely hate any Beholder that looks like even slightly different from themselves. Yeah, that's that. If you're not really familiar with D&D, you probably know of the Beholder, but you probably don't know that the Beholders are like violently xenophobic. Like canonically, most Beholders they'll have a bunch of babies and they'll eat all the babies that came out like a little different. Well, it's like if they hate other species, it's not quite the same as like racism, really, because they don't care that it's like everything else. Beholders think everything else is like a creepy animal. It's like Beholders have like a crazy phobia of just everything that is not themselves. But another part of the lore that they have now with Beholders is that when a Beholder is asleep, its dreams can manifest new species of Beholder. Like if a Beholder dreams about a weird-looking Beholder, that weird-looking Beholder will just pop into existence and become like a new species of Beholder. Which is very, very funny for a monster that's that racist against its own kind. But yeah, right after the Beholders, the Black Pudding. This is the first slime in this book. The Black Pudding is a monster composed of groups of single cells. It is a scavenger/hunter, found only in underground areas normally. The body structure of a black pudding is such that it can flow, through narrow openings. The monster travels equally well on walls or ceilings as well as floors. Its tiny mouths and saliva do 3 to 24 hit points of damage. I don't think slimes are acknowledged as having tiny mouths and saliva anymore, but I really like putting it that way. Like do they mean like every cell has a little mouth? It's funny that slimes became like in other gaming, like especially like in video games, it's like the trope came to be that slimes are the weakest monsters, like the lowliest early stage monsters, but in D&D slimes are like they're like an absolute like nightmare to fight if you're not high enough level, as far as I know. Like slimes will one slime will just like demolish all the players. Yeah, it's like when when slimes were put in this, it's like they were thinking like the Blob, like that a slime would be like a significant like horror monster, and not just like a little weakling early dungeon thing. The black pudding is not affected by cold. It is affected by fire. Sometimes have color variation, gray, brown, and white being not uncommon. Blink dog. These brown and yellowish creatures are as intelligent as normal humans and have a fairly complex language consisting of barks, yaps, whines, and growls. They are also able to use a limited form of teleportation, the blink. In attack, pack members will blink in and out in a random fashion at random intervals. Teleporting, individuals have a 75% chance of appearing behind the opponent. These sound like the most obnoxious thing you could ever possibly fight. Like a pack of dogs is already awful if they're determined to get you, but these are little dogs that can think as well as you can, and they can just teleport as much as they want. It kind of feels overpowered, honestly, but they're not very big. No, wait, no, they are. They're 3 feet tall at shoulder. That's actually, just from the illustration, I always thought these were little tiny things, like just little yappy chihuahuas that gang like prairie dogs or something. No, apparently they're 3 feet tall. There is a great enmity between blink dogs and displacer beasts. We'll be seeing the Displacer beast later. A lot of you already know what that is. The two creatures will always attack each other. Yeah, I feel like they should be like associated with kobolds. Let's see. Now we have the normal boars. Wild boar, giant boar, and warthog. Nothing particularly interesting about the boars. These creatures are pig-like omnivores. I think they're actually just pigs. I don't think they're pig-like. Brain mole! I love this picture of the star-nosed mole just emanating raw power. Yeah, the brain mole. Look at that. Look at that power there emanating. Small mole-like animals which inhabit most places above and below ground, brain moles are attracted by psionic activity of any sort, including magic spells which duplicate psionic effects. When a brain mole is within 30 feet of any creature exercising such psionic activity, it will seek to feed upon the energy being used by psionically burrowing into the mind. This has the effect of attacking the mind with a 121-point strength mind thrust upon the creature using psionic energy. This burrowing will have a 20% chance per round of causing permanent insanity in non-psionically endowed creatures employing psionic energy. Cessation of the spell or abandoning the use of the magic item will immediately relieve the attack. The first thing it says is that they are found, they inhabit most places above and below ground. So at this point in the D&D world, there's just a normal, there's an otherwise normal little mole, tiny, it's 3 inches long. It's exactly like a normal star-nosed mole, except if you use psychic powers and you aren't good enough at it, you aren't naturally supposed to, the local brain moles will just start tunneling into your thoughts and drive you insane. I don't know when the last time was that they published the brain mole, but it's a good idea, and I think it should have remained another staple of the game. And yeah, there's the brownie. I love the brownie's facial expression. The floppy hat is honestly, it's not drawn very well. It's a very bad looking floppy hat. Brownies are distant relatives of halflings, perhaps half halfling, half pixie, and they are smaller and far less common. They are basically friendly to humans and their ilk, but because they are shy, they are seldom seen and favor quiet, pastoral areas in which to dwell. If encountered on friendly terms, brownies can often be convinced to help lawful good characters. They are able to make or repair items of wood, leather, metal, etc. with ease. They are also good guides, and they can use the following spells: Protection from Evil, Ventriloquism, Dancing Lights, Continual Light, Mirror Image, Confusion, and Dimension Door. Brownies not usually carry weapons other than short swords, exceptional senses, capable of blending into the landscape very quickly, in effect using natural cover and speed to become invisible. So yeah, that's the brownie. Just a friendly little guy. Just a little guy who will repair your shoes, and he's good at ventriloquism. But yeah, for much of the existence of this game, there was like a strict rule that like entire species have alignments, like all brownies are good, all beholders are evil, which didn't make a lot of sense because even then they already had exceptions. Like they already had like a relatively friendly beholder in one publication, I think. Yeah, there was no reason to have. There was never a reason to declare that like a whole species is evil. It's like they did it so that you could so that you had like a measure of like what's going to be your opponent on these adventures, but they should have just left that as like I don't know. It's like you can infer reasonably well enough, like, what monsters are going to give you a problem by, like, their interests, like what they do. Something that eats human brains is probably going to be a problem. We don't need to also know that it eats human brains and it is morally corrupt. That doesn't really add anything to the issue of the human brain eating. Let's see, normal buffalo. Should I just skip the normal animals? I could skim them, see if anything about them is interesting. Nothing about the buffalo is interesting. Yeah, welcome to the stream. This is only the second stream I've ever done, and the last one was a few days ago for just like 5 people. But yeah, here's the original bugbear. Oh, the thing that looks like a sentient canoe is a very classic monster we will have a lot to say about in a moment. Bugbears live in loose bands and are typically found... He is scrungly. The original bugbear is so scrungly. They are hairy giant goblins who operate equally well in bright daylight or great darkness. As likely to choose a habitation above ground as they are able to select a subterranean abode. Although using the name bugbear for just a hairy goblin was kind of underwhelming, because like a bugbear is like it's kind of just another term for a bogeyman. Like it's kind of an abstract monster that like eats kids. And this is just a hairy guy. Let's see. Although bugbears are clumsy looking and walk with a shambling gait, they are able to move very quickly. Don't say mean things about the bugbear. Their armor is ill-kept, dirty, and dingy, and they live for approximately 75 years. Oh yeah, what about kobolds? Where was that? Oh yeah, the young fight as kobolds. So if for some reason your adventurers are bullying little baby bugbears, they want you to just use the stats for the kobolds. Now here's the bullet. There he is. There's the bullet. This is one of the monsters that was originally a plastic toy. It's kind of like a fin that pops out of the back. It can raise and lower. Yeah, these were little plastic toys that were made in Japan, and they weren't meant to be anything in particular. They didn't have names. They were like generic kaiju. And that's true of several monsters in this book. When they were developing D&D for the first time, they used a bunch of those toys as the very first miniatures for game testing, for play testing. And there wasn't any copyright on them, so they just kind of like directly lifted them and gave them a name. The bullet, or land shark, was thought to be extinct until recently. Oh, see, this is the D&D coelacanth. Thought to be extinct until recently, when this horror reappeared. It was the result of a mad wizard's experimental crossbreeding of a snapping turtle and armadillo with infusions of demon's ichor. I don't think they say that anymore about the bullet, that it's just a demonic armadillo turtle experiment. They range temperate climates, feeding on horses, men, and most other flesh. Although they dislike dwarf and shun elf of any sort. They love halfling and will hungrily dig them from their burrows. The stupid bullet is irascible and always hungry, and they fear nothing. So a bullet will attack a large, powerful party just to eat a horse or two. Sometimes the crest of a burrowing land shark will break the ground, thus the name land shark. When fighting, they usually employ their front feet and gaping maw, but when cornered or seriously wounded, they can jump up to 8 feet in the air with blinding speed. It doesn't look like something that can jump. That's very alarming. Speed. The shell under the bullet's crest, an area about 1.5 feet square. Oh, the little pocket where the fin pops out is a weak point. That's a interesting detail that I didn't really remember. The bullet is solitary. Only a mated pair will share the same territory. No young have ever been seen, but smaller specimens have been killed. No one is certain how or where the young are born or hatched. Very large bullet have been reported, one being no less than 11 feet tall at the shoulder. Plates behind its head are highly prized in shield making. A skilled dwarven craftsman can fashion them into a shield. Well, there's the bullet. Normal bull is the next entry, just a cow. Normal camel is the entry after that. Camels can attack by biting. And they can blind you with their spit. Horses tend to dislike the odor of camels. Is that true? Do horses dislike... Horses dislike a lot of things. I think anything a horse sees that it's not familiar enough with, it's not a fan of, as far as I know. Now here's the most important monster for me, the carrion crawler. I mentioned this earlier, but I had the toy I had a toy of this monster when I was like a baby, like a rubber carrion crawler. I used it as this starting image before I started the stream. The rubber carrion crawler is the first toy I can remember owning consciously. Yeah, but I didn't know what it was called, and my mother noticed it said TSR Hobbies on the underside. So she told me it was just the hobby bug. Like the old phrase, bitten by the hobby bug. Although I didn't know that phrase, and I didn't know what the word hobby meant either. So I just thought a hobby is whatever this is. This is a hobby, specifically a hobby bug. Later, my mom found out that it was actually called the carrion crawler, but she immediately misremembered it as carrion critter, and she didn't want to explain what carrion meant to a little tiny kid. So what my mother told me was that it was called the carry-on critter, as in it carries things or carries people like a bus. I think I figured out that was not the case at some point before I actually got this book. But yeah, it was a few years into my life of having this toy and other toys that happened to be D&D monsters when my grandmother gave me a copy of this book, and I didn't know it existed. I didn't know the game existed. It was mind-blowing to me. I opened up this weird mystery book, and there were all these things I had grown up with lore. And that's my story of the carry-on critter. Still one of my favorites. Carrion crawlers strongly resemble a cross between a giant green cutworm and a huge cephalopod. They are usually found only in subterranean areas. The carrion crawler is, as its name implies, a scavenger, but this does not preclude aggressive attacks upon living creatures, for that ensures a constant supply of corpses upon which to feed or for deposit of eggs. The head of the monster is well protected, but its body is only armor class 7. A carrion crawler moves quite rapidly on its multiple legs despite its bulk, and a wall or ceiling is as easily traveled as a floor. For each of the beast's feet are equipped with sharp claws which hold it fast. The head is equipped with 8 tentacles which flail at prey. Each 2-foot-long tentacle exudes a gummy secretion, which when fresh will paralyze opponents. As there are so many tentacles with which to hit, and thus multiple chances of being paralyzed, these monsters are greatly feared. Obviously I'm biased, but to this day I do think this is the best design this monster has ever had. If only because newer takes on the carrion crawler, they try to make it look more like a believable arthropod. They'll give it anatomy lifted from an actual insect larva, or they'll give it little insect legs and stuff, but this never read to me as an arthropod. It's its own thing. If I had to place it closer to Arthropoda, I would think this is more of a lobopod, like a velvet worm, or even hallucigenia, kind of just like a squishy thing. I know later books have also, I forget if any official D&D books have done this, but I distinctly remember some books of some sort that tried to add a giant moth, like a carrion moth, and the carrion crawler was just the larva, and I disagree with that. I don't think they should be just a caterpillar, but whatever. I guess we gotta move on from the carrion crawler. Yeah, there's the Catoblepas. Is that how it's pronounced? Just Catoblepas? And yeah, Yeah, this nightmare creature is loathsome beyond description and has no redeeming features. I disagree. I think all of these features are very redeeming. I think its features get more and more redeeming the closer you get to its wonderful face. I really love the little fleshy papilla all over it. It's a beautiful animal, and they should be more respectful. The neck is long and thin, and perched atop it is a big head, uglier than that of a warthog. Its legs are thick and stumpy, much like a hippopotamus. The creature's tail is strong and snaky, however, and moves with amazing swiftness to strike enemies. Perhaps its habitat, fetid swamps and miasmal marshes, caused the bizarre combination of genetic characteristics in this monster, or perhaps it was due to some ghastly tinkering with life by a demented godling. In any case, the most horrid aspect of the Catoblepas is its bloodshot eyes. In universe, if this book is something some adventurer wrote, they really hated the Catoblepas. The gaze of the Catoblepas is equal to a death ray, extending 6 feet from the eyes. Is that it? Is that all? 6 feet? So there actually is a significant safe range from a Catoblepas. As long as you're 6 feet away from its eyes, you're fine. Any creature which meets this gaze dies without any chance to save itself. Otherwise, the very weak neck of the Catoblepas has only a 25% chance of raising the head high enough to use its eyes. If both parties are still, this chance increases by 15. If the monster must follow quick movements, or if it is shambling along in pursuit of prey, there's only a 10% chance the neck raising the head is sufficiently high to fix its gaze. A fleeing victim, even with eyes averted, is subject to the deadly effect. Again, it's only for 6 feet. You don't have to flee far, apparently, and it doesn't move fast. You're very, very safe from the Catoblepas if you're riding on its back. I think that's an important detail they left out. You could ride on if you trained this Catoblepas, you could just ride on its back and train it to kind of sweep its head back and forth, just kill everything in front of you like a wheat thresher, but it's a Catoblepas. Now they make it sound like it's very hard for it to lift its head. But if you had one for a friend, for a horse friend, maybe you could build your Catoblepas a custom helmet, and it'd have shielding so it doesn't accidentally look at you. But then the helmet could have little wheels. You could give it a helmet with wheels on the bottom, and then it wouldn't have that problem. Wild cattle. Why is this a separate entry from the bull? Why didn't they just have the cow and the bull together like the beetles? Males of the herd are likely to attack. Yeah, sea bull it has in parentheses. Centaur. That's a centaur, all right. Centaurs dwell in secluded pastures far from human habitation. Roving bands of these creatures always carry weapons, and leaders will carry shields. Half the centaurs in a band are armed with oaken clubs. There's a lot to say about just what they're carrying around. If centaurs are encountered in their lair, it will be a hidden glen with rich grass and running water. Here there will be additional males, twice as many females, and 5 to 30 young. Females and young do not use weapons. I think that's unlikely. They're all centaurs. I think all centaurs probably kill you with a bow and arrow. It's just like natural. Okay, whoa. If the females and young are threatened, the centaurs will be 90% likely to ransom them with their main treasure. Are they saying that the centaurs will sell out their families for... Not generally friendly with humans or dwarves. They tolerate gnomes and halflings. They are friendly with elves, and they like wood elves. Yeah, it's worded strangely. I guess they're implying there might be that there's a scenario where you, the player, are going to kidnap and ransom baby centaurs. That's pretty messed up. Giant centipede. This is a really good drawing of a centipede. It's not realistically accurate, but it's very cool looking. It's a fantastical centipede. But when they say giant centipede, they only mean a foot long. And I think there are actual centipedes already almost that size in the real world. These nasty creatures are found nearly everywhere. They are aggressive and rush forth to bite their prey, injecting poison into the wound. I think they mean venom into the wound. But in many cases, this venom is weak and not fatal. Also, as the centipede is small, it is less likely to resist attacks. They come in many colors. That's it. They're just regular centipedes that are kind of not even unusually large. These are just centipedes. It's always bothered me that there's no picture for the cerebral parasite. Of all the things I want to see a picture of. Oh, I guess these creatures are not visible to the human eye. Well, that's boring. Okay, what's very strange, this is unrelated to the cerebral parasite. The Twitch chat keeps trying to filter your comments if you use the phrase "bite you," and it tells me that's because it is a sexual statement. So when you tried to say talk about a centipede biting you, the Twitch chat thought you were, I don't know, sexting or something. Oh, bites you is fine, apparently. You can say bites you. You can't say bite you without me approving it. Let's see. Cerebral parasite can only be removed by a cure disease spell. If a psionically endowed creature comes within a foot, they will attack, but the attack will be completely unnoted. After one has fed upon 6 psionic energy points, it will reproduce another parasite, and thereafter continue to drain energy, as will its offspring. And I want to see what it's shaped like, at least. Like, you can tell us it's invisible, but you can still show us, like, the outline. Chimera. I like the Chimera's dragon head burning the frame of the illustration. The Chimera combines features of 3 creatures in a monstrous manner. Its hindquarters are those of a huge goat, its forepaws are those of a lion, its body sports dragon wings, and it has 3 large heads. It can claw with its forelegs, its goat head is armed with horns. We know these things about chimeras. Cockatrice. Cockatrice? I don't know if I've heard cockatrice pronounced in anything. I'm just gonna say cockatrice. This is another of the drawings in this book I used to try and recreate, like, exact as a child. There was something I just really liked about this cockatrice design. I really like yeah, they're like fish fins almost in structure. I like its nasty little face. Cockatrices are found in temperate to tropical regions, both above and below ground. They can inflict only minor wounds with their beaks, but their touch will turn flesh to stone. Note that the petrification aura of this monster extends into both the astral and ethereal planes, and can thus affect creature in these planes as well, like the basilisk. This is actually significantly, the D&D cockatrice is very much nerfed from the authentic medieval cockatrice. Second. Let's see. Yeah, the original cockatrice in mythology, everything it sees dies. Like, yeah, like I remember reading a book when I was a kid that said a cockatrice will stand outside and it'll look up at the sky, and like every bird that passes overhead falls out of the air, and that's how it gets its food. And that, like, everything around a cockatrice's lair generates like a desert wasteland as far as the cockatrice can see. Like, all the way to the horizon, everything dies. Then we have the coatl. I'm mangling that pronunciation probably. These winged feathered serpents are rarely found anywhere except in warm, jungle-like regions or flying through the ether. Due to their intelligence and powers, they are regarded with awe by the inhabitants of their homelands and considered to be divine. Coatl rarely interfere in human affairs. They are able to polymorph themselves, and they use magic as a 5th level magic user. In melee, they attack both by venomous bite and constriction. If a constriction attack succeeds, the victim takes damage. They are psionically aware and have 2 major and 4 minor disciplines. Speak several human languages. Giant crab. found in any area near water of any sort. They operate equally well on land or in water, always seeking to find something to eat. Their eyes, being on stalks, can peek over ledges. Then there's the giant crayfish. I feel like these two should have been like a rolled together in a crustaceans entry. These strange monsters are found only in fresh water. What's strange about a giant crayfish to anyone living in this setting, in this world? Crocodile. Normal and giant. Although some of these reptiles are of giant size, such monsters are typically found only in salt water or in prehistoric settings. What's a prehistoric setting in this world also? All crocodiles are stupid and voracious eaters. That's their opinion. Oh, we're up to the demons. Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Easter Sunday. We're about to read many pages of demons. Each type of demon, and especially the higher level demon lords and princes, have many unusual characteristics and extraordinary abilities. Characteristics and abilities which are common to all demons are covered here. Demons are able to move from their own plane into those of Tartarus, Hades, or Pandemonium, or roam the astral plane. However, they cannot enter the material plane without aid, conjuration, gate, or by name speaking or similar means. Demons are chaotic and evil. The smarter and stronger rule those of their kind who are weaker and less intelligent. The less intelligent will attack without question and fight until slain. Demons of type 5 and above are not actually slain when their material form is killed. Their material form being removed from their use, the demon in question is thereby forced back to the plane from whence it originally came, there to remain until a century has passed, or until another aids it to go forth again. And there's a lot of strange wording in this book. If demons are encountered on their own plane, they can be slain. That rhymes. You think that's like a little, like, you know, a little rhyming slogan that adventuring parties remember? You know, on their own plane, they can be slain. Kind of like that, like black and yellow thing for which coral snake can kill you. No demon can ever be subdued. All are able to divide their attacks amongst 2 or 3 opponents. They will never willingly serve anyone or anything. If forced to serve through magic or threat, they will continually seek a way to slay their master or captor. Those to whom demons show a liking are typically carried off to the demon's plane to become a slave, although a favored one. Note that demons can be summoned by characters of any alignment, but controlling a demon is another matter entirely. The fact that you could pretend to summon demons in this game is basically... that is primarily where all the terror of this game came from. The years of the years of like moral outrage against Dungeons and Dragons. Another thing I should mention about my mom. Around the time I got this book, my mom kind of identified as Christian, and she did kind of believe that D&D was like a creepy occult thing. But my mom's version of Christianity was so liberal and so new age. She also thought regular Christian church was a creepy cult thing. She did not believe in demons. She didn't believe in hell. She basically didn't believe anyone was bad or evil or that any of these things are dangerous. It was more like my mom worried a little that I would just be religious at all. Like, to my mom, the danger of a satanic cult and a Christian church were the same thing. She didn't want me too exposed to wacky religious ideas in general. So that was my only disagreement that my mom might have started with me over this book. Was she kept reminding me none of this stuff is real, and is just like, yeah, I know it's not real. See, Demon Lords. This is a lot of build up to the demons. We should just go right to reading the demons themselves. There's Demogorgon. Everybody knows that name now from Stranger Things. Demogorgon is the Prince of Demons. He looks so sad, though. Newer books make Demogorgon look like... They make him look really, vicious and snarling and terrifying. He does have baboon heads, and baboons can be very scary, but I'm a bigger fan of, this wimpy, depressed-looking Demogorgon. Rivalry between demon lords is great, but the enmity between Demogorgon and Orcus is immense and unending. Demogorgon is a terrible opponent. First, he possesses great powers in his two heads. Should he fix the gaze of both upon his enemies, he is able to hypnotize. This hypnosis will affect from 10 to 100 creatures. That's a lot of things he can hypnotize. This hypnosis of the mass sort is limited in that the victims are only under its influence for one turn, but during this time will follow most instructions absolutely. Self-destruction would not be heeded. Demogorgon can tell you to do anything but hurt yourself, apparently. He cannot tell you to kill yourself. Far from 1 to 6 turns afterwards will tend to believe or carry out the residual of the hypnosis. The left head has a gaze which has the effect of a rod of beguiling. The gaze of the right head causes insanity. When used independently in this manner, the potential victim or victims save versus magic to determine whether or not they avoid the eyes. Second, Demogorgon is able to lash his forked tail, striking with it as a whip-like weapon. Its touch causes energy drain from 1 to 4 levels. But is Demogorgon filtered on Twitch? That's weird. They do not. I actually looked at the swear filter earlier today. You cannot remove words from it, as far as I know. I think there's a whitelist feature somewhere. I'll have to go in at some point and add a Demogorgon to it, I guess. Let's see. Demogorgon's powers include cast Continual Darkness, Charm Person, Illusion, Fear, Levitate, Detect Magic, read magic, read languages, detect invisible objects, ESP, dispel magic, clairvoy, clairaudience. What's clairaudience? I've never heard that word. Water breathe, polymorph self, wall of ice, charm monster, the feeble mind spell. They give a lot of spells to these demons. It is contended by some that this demon prince is supreme, and in any event he is awesome in his power. This gigantic demon is 18 feet tall and reptilian. His two heads bear the visages of evil baboons, or perhaps mandrills. Evil baboons, or perhaps mandrills. With the hideous coloration of the latter named beasts. The hideous coloration of mandrills, apparently. His blue-green skin is plated with snake-like scales. His body and legs are those of a giant lizard. His twin necks resemble snakes, and his thick tail is forked. His appearance testifies to his command of cold-blooded things such as serpents, reptiles, and octopi. That's a jump. He commands serpents, reptiles, and octopi. That's an odd choice of examples. I mean, those are cold-blooded things, but I guess it's because he has the tentacles. Yeah, I think he can control whatever he wants. Now here's my favorite of these demon lords. I still don't know how you're supposed to pronounce this. Juiblex? I'm just going to say Juiblex. Juiblex, the Faceless Lord. There is no question that this is the most disgusting and loathsome of all demons. Juiblex is foul and nauseating in the extreme. Again, I disagree with the harsh language they have for some of these entries. I don't... What did he ever do to this author? His dripping form can lash forward in melee to cause terrible damage, both from the force of his blow and the caustic properties of his noisome secretions. Juiblex is reclusive and hates intrusion by any form of normal creature, but surrounds his person with slimes, jellies, and puddings. If encountered in his lair, there will be green slimes, ochre jellies, gray oozes, and black puddings. He is similarly shunned by other demons and other creatures. Able to spew forth a jelly-like slime once per turn, with the effect of both an ochre jelly and green slime. We will see those later. Has no set form, can spread into a vast pool or raise up into a towering column. This is another one where I don't think they've ever matched the quality of the original illustration. I've seen a lot of newer artwork of Juiblex where it's just a big scary slime with eyes. They try to make it look like more powerful, more like sleek, but I love this original drawing where it's just kind of like a sea sponge. It's like just all this lumpy, actually kind of looks like a pile of fungus or lichen, kind of. Yeah, it's just a big pile of garbage, just rotten garbage. And I love the little like squid siphon mouths that are under the eyes and just barfing. I just don't think they could have ever improved on this design. Then there's the mains. Is it just pronounced mains? The subdemon. the manes. Those dead which go to the 666 layers of the demonic abyss become manes. The most evil of them are confined in the tiers of flames of Gehenna. They are only semi-intelligent and attack any non-demon with nails and teeth. Killing them simply dissipates them into stinking clouds of vapor which reform into manes in one day. Demon lords and princes sometimes feed upon these creatures, destroying them utterly, treat them as undead with regard to sleep, charm, and similar spells. Certain manes or manies will be used to form shadows or ghasts, depending upon the greatness of their evil in material life. They can also be sent forth by a lord or prince to exist on the material plane for a day. These are typically those from Gehenna. Oh yeah, see ya, Zarboil. D&D is one of those settings where, hell is more like a reward for the more evil you are. Like, you only go there if you are a bastard, if you are a complete rotten jerk. But the worse you are, the more likely you are to get like upgraded to like more powerful demons. Orcus, the Prince of the Undead. That's the one that Demogorgon hates. It is probable that this creature is one of the most powerful and strongest of all demons. If he so much as slaps with his open hand, the blow causes 1 to 4 hit points of damage. His terrible fists can deliver blows of 3 to 13 hit points. His tail has a virulent poison sting. Again, that should be a venomous sting. Yeah, the damage they're describing isn't that bad for this game. I think almost anything can do one hit point of damage with a slap in D&D. Well, he can summon undead, and he has a bunch of spells. Oh, and he owns the Wand of Death, Orcus's wand, which is a rod of obsidian topped by a skull. This instrument causes death to any creature save those of like status, such as other princes of hell, saints, godlings, merely by touching their flesh. This isn't terribly impressive either. This is not even like a power that Orcus has. He just owns a stick that can kill you. Some of these others can kill you by looking at you. The Succubus. I think this is the first nudity we've gotten to in this book. There's quite a bit of nudity in this book. These female demons are usually not found in numbers, for they prefer to act alone. A succubus in its natural form appears very much like a tall and very beautiful human female, although the bat-like wings immediately show the observer its true character. Succubi cannot be harmed by any normal weaponry. They cause darkness in a 5-foot radius. The kiss of the succubus drains the victim of 1 energy level, and all succubi are able to perform any one of the following feats at will. Become ethereal, charm person, clairaudience again, suggestion, shape change. Succubi rule lower demons through wit and threat. That's all they have to say about the succubus. I would think they'd have a little bit more. Oh, they were mad about it anyway. They were very mad that even the word succubus was in this book. Well, now we're down to the... let's see, these are like the main little demons. There's the type 1 demon, the Vrak. These are among the weakest of their kind. Type 1 demons somewhat resemble a cross between a human and a vulture. Strength is standard. They may be struck with normal missiles. This book, I feel it mixes up. I think it commonly mixes up the punctuation for inches versus feet. And I'm just going with feet every time because I doubt they meant that, like, some of them, like, have a magical force extending, like, 3 inches. Yeah, I really like I like the Vrak's pose. I like its big gnarly hands. That's true. It might just mean inches within the game, which is a little confusing. Let's see. Type 2 demon, Hezru. I like this just like dumpy lizard man, and he looks like he's laughing at like the best joke he ever heard in his life. The next most common type of demon. These foul creatures are a foot shorter than the tall type 1 sort, looking somewhat like a gross toad with arms in place of forelegs. I disagree. Looking like a toad is something that can never be gross. These demons can be struck by normal weapons or missiles. The use of the word missile in this book really confused me as a child because I didn't know it just meant like any projectile. I thought D&D just had like, just missiles, like you'd fire from a rocket launcher. The darkness they cause at will is of the variety which covers a 15-foot radius. These sorts of additional abilities can be performed by these demons one at a time. Cause fear, levitate, detect invisible objects, telekinesis. Type 3, Glabrazu. That's a good name, Glabrazu. Towering to well over 9 feet in height, this not unusual kind of demon has a ghastly appearance, being broad and strong-looking, covered with a wrinkled hide, with a head much like a goat-horned dog, pincers instead of normal hands, and a small pair of human arms protruding from its chest. Normal attacks will affect this demon type. It really reminds me of something else from pop culture, and I just don't know what it is. Maybe it just looks like multiple like Zelda enemies rolled together. I like the little bat ear wings and the big like ice tongue pincers. Type 4. Nalfeshni. These demons combine the worst features of an ape and a boar, and their small wings appear unable to bear the ponderous 10-foot tall bodies. Can be hit only by weapons and missiles of the magical sort. Much as a Type 3, these demons cause darkness. Some Type 4 demons have names, and these can be spoken with if the conjuring party knows the proper one to say. This will make it 90% certain the demon will listen to offers of rewards for some small service. These demons are also fond of human flesh and blood. Type 5, Merilith. There's more, even neuter than the Succubus. They didn't cover those up with the hair this time. Another of the female demons with a multi-armed female torso atop the body of a great snake. Type 5 demons are taller than a large man and far more terrible. Their 6 arms are all able to use weapons. The favored weapons are swords and battle axes. They can constrict a victim with their snaky tails as well. I like them using snaky. When desiring to do so, they cause darkness. Other extraordinary abilities, any of which can be performed as desired, are Charm Person, Levitate, Read Languages, Detect Invisible Object, Cause Pyrotechnics. This is pretty... I don't know if Twitch would really care about this tiny little drawing. Little black and white doodle of this snake lady. There's a little bit more detailed nakedness later on. Let's see, type 6, the balor. Each type 6 demon has its own name. 6 are known to exist. Oh, there's only 6 of these demons. Their weapons are employed to drag the opponent into the flames from which the demons are able to create around themselves. During any combat, there's a 2/3 chance they will immolate and use its whip. With proper invoking offerings and promises, type 6 demons might be convinced to cooperate with a character or a group for a time. Naturally, the demon will attempt to assume or usurp command at every opportunity. Most chaotic evil monsters are drawn to the strong evil charisma of this creature, and all of its kind tend towards a more organized evil. So, these get along with each other and other evil things. They're buddies, pals. Yeenoghu, the demon lord of gnolls. I like this drawing too. I like his little... He's kind of doing the little, like, cat girl hand. Amongst the ranks of demon princes, Yeenoghu is one of the most powerful and most feared. There will normally be 66 gnolls of the strongest sort in attendance upon Yeenoghu. And if he is alone, he can summon from 6 to 66 in one turn. This demon prince also receives homage from the king of ghouls, and can summon from 6 to 16 ghouls if he so desires. Typically carries his dreaded flail, a weapon 7 feet long with 3 chains of adamantite, each bearing a spiked ball. When he strikes with this weapon, each of the balls is rolled for to determine if it scored a hit. More gameplay. Speaks all of the giant class languages. He can talk to all the giants. Telepathically project his speech to any single creature. Cannot thereby influence them other than by the persuasiveness of his speech. So he can't control you magically, but he can, like, talk to you. He can try to convince you to do bad stuff. His head is that of a hyena. His chest is canine in form, his hands are paw-like, and his feet are pawed, thin to the point of being skeletal. And his only body hair is a mangy crest of putrid yellow from his head to his mid-back. That's not really quite how he was illustrated. That's not really a hyena head, exactly. Oh, and now we're on the devils. If you are only passingly familiar with D&D, demons and devils are two different categories. The inhabitants and rulers of the plains of hell are principally devils, the most powerful of lawful evil creatures. You see, the demons are the chaotic evil fiends in D&D, and the devils are the lawful evil. The devils are the fiends who have like a government structure. These are the ones. Each type of lesser devil has a special combination of inscriptions, which will bind them to the wielder for the space of 9 days. Human sacrifice is required of evil creatures using a talisman. Merely looking at their talismans is dangerous. Devils are the ones that'll make like the contracts and barter for souls and stuff like that. Now the first one is the most boring, though. Asmodeus, the archdevil, that's just like the cartoon Satan. Overlord of all the Dukes of Hell, rules by both might and wit, physically stronger than any other devil, as strong as a storm giant, and the most cunning and artful. His mighty palace rests upon the floor of the lowest rift in Hell's 9th plane. His servitors are pit fiends and whichever other lesser and greater devils he commands to service. That's just the Satan, the normal Satan. Like how we've also seen like normal bears. Oh, there can be no question that Asmodeus is the most handsome of all devils, as well as the strongest and most cunning. The ultimate evil he represents can be seen in his beauty only when he so wills or if he forgets himself and flies into a rage. Beelzebul, archdevil. I was always disappointed that this is just a guy and not the usual like giant fly monster. Although in 3rd edition D&D they actually had a bit of story that after some kind of fight with another demon, Beelzebul was cursed to become a slug. So in 3rd edition and on, he's just this giant. He's a giant slug with he's got like a human skeleton floating inside. And he's a giant slug that smells bad, so like flies are attracted to him for real. It was like kind of like supposed to be like an ironic punishment. Let's see. The 6th and 7th planes of hell, Malbolge and Maladamini respectively, are ruled by Beelzebul, Lord of the Flies. Or is it lies? He is an archdevil of great power, second only to Asmodeus. Malbolge is a black stone plain filled with stinking vapors, smokes, fire pits, and huge caves and caverns. Yeah, this doesn't give him. This description doesn't give him like any personality It doesn't tell you why he dresses like a bug. They kind of did Beelzebub dirty in this book. Seems like he should have been a much bigger deal. And then there's the lesser barbed devil. I like him just looking at fire. He's just sitting on a rock looking at his little fire there. See, barbed devils populate the third and fourth planes of hell. They are excellent guards and alert at all times, never surprised. Unauthorized creatures are immediately cast into one of the many cells to be tormented. While these monsters carry no weapons, they have sufficient weaponry with their horny, barbed hands and horrid tails. They are able to generate fear upon striking an opponent. Barbed devils can perform, let's say, pyrotechnics, produce flame, hold person, or summon another barbed devil. This is AD&D. I think, yeah. Bone Devil, another lesser devil. This is a good one. It's like a skeleton guy with a scorpion tail and insect wings. This kind of look like the wings of like a lacewing. Actually, a lot like a scorpion fly, but I don't think. I don't know if whoever designed this knew what a scorpion fly was. Bone devils populate the lower planes of hell, particularly the fifth. They are particularly malicious and delight in making less powerful creatures suffer. As they prefer cold to heat, these monsters also have ultravision, seeing light in the ultraviolet spectrum. What does that have to do with preferring cold to heat? They have a great bone hook they employ to snare and wound opponents. That's basically it. They can they can create a wall of ice. They're like they're icy scorpion fly skeleton guys, and all of them presumably own one of these big hooks. Dispatcher, archdevil. This is another just regular Satan, I guess. Oh, not Dispatcher, Dispater. I'm sorry, his name isn't Dispatcher. Dispater is the ruler of Hell's second plane. His capital is the Iron City of Dis, named after the whole of the plane. His palace there is infernally grand, filled with zombies, yada yada. Ooh, now it says Dispater is evilly handsome, and only his small horns, tail, and cloven left hoof distinguish him from humanity. And this author liked the Satans. How do you pronounce this? Erinies? The devils common to Hell's second plane, as well as the kind most commonly sent forth to garner more souls. They are female, but can appear as male. They are armed with a magical dagger, which drips a caustic venom. Now they call it venom. Causes terribly painful wounds. They also carry a rope of entanglement with which to bind their victims. Can be struck by normal weapons. They will pursue evil persons unceasingly in order to take them alive into hell. They will sometimes bargain with others, hoping to tempt them into evil doing. Carrion, the archdevil. This guy is silly looking. Just a guy. He's just got like a guy's face. I think he's from Dante's Inferno or Greek mythology. Sometimes referred to as the wild beast, Carrion is the gigantic ruler of the fifth plane of hell. The archdevil is as powerful as a storm giant and loves to grab his opponents and rend them with his claws while stabbing them with his terrible poisonous tail. You know, his venomous tail. Carrion dwells in a huge castle and seldom ventures forth. Yeah, it's his hobby. It's his favorite. He's all about grabbing and rending people while stabbing them with his tail. He's got a TikTok about it. Oh, Carrion has a great bull's horn, which he can wind to bring forth 5 to 20 minotaurs. That's a lot of minotaurs at once. He can shower you with minotaurs whenever he pleases. Oh, a handsome head and torso sit atop Carrion's snaky trunk. Malebranche, the horned greater devil. The evil horns are primarily from Hell's 6th and 7th planes. These are the least of the greater devils and have such names as Dogwretch, Evil Tail, and Bent Wing. Oh, I love the name Dogwretch. I want to know more about Dogwretch. They hate anything stronger than themselves and fear stronger devils accordingly. Aww. Well, I don't care about any of this other stuff as much as I care about the horned devil named Dogwretch. Ice Devil. These are pretty neat. They've got like a praying mantis head. And they got like a thorny vine for a tail. The frigid 8th plane of hell is populated in the main with ice devils. They are greater devils in every sense of the word, preferring to attack and torment victims by means of their claws, mandibles, and tails. Being greater devils, they have personal names. Every time they say this, they should tell us the names. If they're even half as good as the horned devils. I always thought it was interesting that the insect-headed ones are the ones associated with ice. Lemurs. Is it just pronounced lemur? It's not like lemure. The lemurs are the form which the dead whom inhabit the 9 hells are put in. That's a weird sentence. They're the form which the dead whom inhabit the 9 hells are put in. Okay. These vaguely human blobs are then tormented by devils. Their minds are quite gone, and they will attack anything non-devilish which they see. Lemurs regenerate at a rate of 1 hit point per round, so they are not usually destroyed by the wounds inflicted on them by their environment or the devils filling it. These wretched things can be destroyed permanently only by blessed things. After being in hell for a time, certain lemurs will be chosen to form wraiths or specters. Yeah, the first time I think, who who would have named them that? Conquistadors or something? Yeah, the lemurs, as in the animals, were named after lemurs, as in the scary evil spirits. This first design is so sad. Like, really, like they actually have lemur eyes, like a bush baby. They have bush baby eyes, and then these goofy, dripping, melting faces and puddle bodies. Pit Fiend, Greater Devil. The lowest plane of hell is the home of the dreaded Pit Fiend, a devil of great power. They possess a terrible strength and the most evil nature. All Pit Fiends have personal names and are personal servants of Asmodeus. I like the big tusks are funny. So that was the last demon or devil in this book, and now we're on the dinosaurs. Do you guys want me to read every dinosaur? Let's at least find out what the deal is with dinosaurs in this. Let's see. Greek for terrible lizard. Descended from a variety of the species called thecodonts. The two orders of dinosaurs are Saurischia and Ornithischians. All carnivorous dinosaurs fall into the former order. All armored and or horned dinosaurs fall into the latter order. Because of the nature of time and planes where magic works, dinosaurs widely separate in time are discussed hereunder. For they can be found intermingled on some alternate world, strange plane, or isolated continent somewhere. Why, in this setting full of demons and cockatrices and hobby bugs and slimes, why are dinosaurs still just extinct prehistoric animals that only exist like under like time-space distortion scenarios? Like, this isn't Earth. Let's see. What do they got here? Anatosaurus. Duck-billed dinosaurs of the plant-eating sort. They run from attack and their only defense is by a lashing tail. No picture. Ankylosaurus. Also no picture. This armadillo-like ornithischian. I can't pronounce that. I know the word and I'm not good at pronouncing it. Weighs 4 or 5 tons. Most of this weight being armor plating. His armor plating. Apparently all ankylosaurs in D&D are male identifying. Remember that. If attacked, this creature will lash its tail, delivering blows of considerable force. Antrodemus, aka Allosaurus. One of the most vicious of predators, this monster can run across hard ground at great speed. Apatosaurus. Brontosaurus. The thunder lizard is a 40-ton plant eater found near marshes and lakes. Moves to deep water to avoid carnivores. Did we find out that these don't actually ever enter water? I know around the time this was published, people assumed maybe the bigger dinosaurs were all like amphibious. Wait, what is Archelon? I'm not actually familiar with that one. Archelon Iscaros. Let's see. I'm looking it up. Oh, it's a turtle. It's this big sea turtle. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the giant sea turtle. There's a Pokemon for that. Yeah, these are reptiles but not dinosaurs. These marine turtles seldom venture onto dry land. Why did they even put it in? Yeah, why did they put it in with the dinosaurs? They had other prehistoric animals elsewhere in this book outside of the dinosaur section. Yeah. Brachiosaurus. I gotta be honest, that's like the worst drawing of a Brachiosaurus I've ever seen published in a real book. Camarasaurus, marsh or swamp-dwelling herbivores. Ceratosaurus. Cetiosaurus. Dinichthys. That's now known as Dunkleosteus. Dinichthys are not actually dinosaurs, but huge prehistoric fish. Its huge mouth can swallow. There's no. Why is that in the dinosaur? Diplodocus, Elasmosaurus, Gorgosaurus. Was Gorgosaurus a real species? Or I thought it was just a... Oh, yeah, I don't know why I thought Gorgosaurus was just a kaiju. These horrid creatures are probably ancestors of Tyrannosaurus rex. The Gorgosaurus is a fleet, carnivorous dinosaur of very aggressive instincts. What is fleet in this context? Oh, yeah, I was thinking of Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus from Godzilla. Why are the dinosaur drawings are so haphazard in this book? You can tell this illustrator wanted to get back to monsters, and he illustrated as few dinosaurs as he could possibly get away with. Iguanodon, which did not look like that at all. A little bit. Iguanodon looked a little like that. Lambeosaurus, crested herbivorous dinosaur. Mosasaurus, referred to here as a marine dinosaur. That is completely wrong. That is just that's a reptile. Megalosaurus. Love the pose and the face of the Megalosaurus. Look at this. Often travels on all fours. I don't think that's true at all. Monoclonius. These reptiles somewhat resemble a single-horned rhinoceros. I'm not familiar with Monoclonius, but also not a dinosaur by their admission. Paleosyncus. Walking dreadnoughts. Oh, okay. Monoclonius is now Centrosaurus. Pentaceratops. Platyosaurus. Stegosaurus. Plesiosaurus, also not a dinosaur. Resembles a snake wearing a turtle's body, sans shell. That's an interesting... I like that description of Plesiosaurus. A snake wearing a turtle's body, sans shell. Styracosaurus. Pteranodon, not a dinosaur. Pteratosaurus. Triceratops. A fierce... Wait. A Pterosaurus... Or no. Yeah, not what the hell's a Pterosaurus? Pteratosaurus. A fierce carnivore found mainly on Triassic plains. So, the D&D world also distinguishes, like, the Triassic and Jurassic and whatnot, apparently. Oh, there's Tyrannosaurus Rex. Highly, charmingly inaccurate. There can be no question that this reptile is the most fearsome and terrible of all carnivorous dinosaurs. Despite its huge size, the monster is swift afoot. Its huge head is nearly 6 feet long. Things about... so stupidly fierce, it will attack a small Triceratops, kill it, and swallow its head in one gulp, thus killing itself in a matter of hours as the horns of the victim pierce the stomach of the victor. Is that a reference to something that ever actually happened? Did they find a fossil of a tyrannosaur that choked to death on a baby Triceratops? Well, we're out of the dinosaurs, and there's the Displacer beast. This is another pretty classic monster. A pack of these monsters always contains only full-grown beasts. The molecular vibrations of Displacer beast are such that it always appears to be 3 feet from its actual position. Thus, these monsters always cause opponents to subtract 2 from attack dice rolls and add 2 to their dice rolls for saving throws. These fierce creatures hate all life, but they particularly hate blink dogs. I agree, I'm on the Displacer Beast side. In combat, the Displacer Beast lashes out with its 2 tentacles, inflicting horrible wounds with the rough, horny edges of these appendages. You don't see the word horny in its original intended context anymore. But yeah, it's a big 6-legged kitty with these great barbed tentacles, and it never looks like where it actually is. That's the Displacer Beast. It's actually in the a Displacer Beast is in the movie that is still in theaters. The Honor Among Thieves. Genie. Genie isn't that interesting. It's a genie. Dog. War dog and wild dog. These are simply large dogs which are trained to fight. Just dogs. Dolphin. Normal dolphin. Most dolphins simply roam the oceans in nomadic schools. A small number, however, have formed underwater communities, and if one is located, it is 75% probable that there will be from 1 to 4 additional communities of dolphins within a 5-mile radius. Communal dolphins will have 2 to 5 swordfish or narwhals as guards. They will help humans in distress and particularly hate sharks. This is from that era when people were very much actually convinced that dolphins were hyper intelligent, possibly psychic. that they were like maybe smarter than humans, which was a misunderstanding caused by one guy who was like, he was giving dolphins LSD and some other things that were a little weirder than that. Doppelganger. These bipedal creatures are of mutable forms, so that they are able to shape themselves into the likeness of any humanoid creature from 4 to 8 feet tall, which they observe. Having become the double for a person, they attempt to do away with that victim and assume its place. If unable to do this, the doppelganger will simply attack, counting on the confusion engendered to make it indistinguishable from the creature it is mimicking. I like that the doppelganger in D&D is, like it's an actual, like, weird, like, alien-looking species of weird, like, it's like brain head, like Martian face. Oh yeah, they did spell it wrong. They put the E in the first E in the wrong place. They don't tell you why the doppelganger wants to do all this, though. They don't give it any like lore or civilization notes. And now we are actually on the dragons. The title characters of this entire setting. There are 10 species of dragons in this original book. Let's see. I have a lot to say about dragons right off the bat. Treasure. Okay, here's the actual where the dragons properly start. I love that they gave these Latin names, scientific names. I wish they had for some of the other monsters. The black dragon is Draco causticus sputum. The black dragon is typically found in miasmal swamps or marshes, although they also inhabit subterranean layers as well, for black dragons always seek to lair in deep, dark caves. They tend towards the midpoint between law and chaos in their evil. The black dragon attacks with a claw bite, or breathes, in this case spitting acid in a half-foot wide stream which extends 6 feet in a straight line. Yeah, maybe they're all subspecies of each other. Yeah, this says they're chaotic evil, but then the description says they're at the midpoint between law and chaos in their evil, which, I mean, that would just be normal evil, wouldn't it? Just regular evil? Yeah, I really liked the original Black Dragon design with just like the short little like iguana face and the straight little horns. And the next one is the blue dragon, Draco electricus. Can you guess the blue dragon's deal? Typically prefer deserts and arid lands. Like others of their kind, the lair is always some vast cave or underground cavern. capable of discharging a bolt of electricity as their breath weapon. They are lawful evil, the blue dragons. I like this drawing, this original drawing of the blue dragon, because it kind of looks more like a pretty fairy tale dragon, like kind of seahorsey, I guess. The brass dragon, Draco impudentus gallus. Sandy desert regions are the typical habitat of brass dragons, whose cavernous layers are often found therein. Brass dragons are quite forward and officious, and they love to converse. They are rather selfish and tend towards neutrality because of this. Oh, they're being called out for their centrism, their political centrism. The brass dragon can breathe a cone of sleep gas. Oh, or a billowing cloud of fear gas. Yeah, in later editions, they make a note that the brass dragon will it'll bury you up to your neck in the desert, just so that you have to listen to its stories and talk to it for hours and hours and hours. If a brass dragon can speak and employ spells, blah blah blah. Bronze dragon. I like the dorky horsey face of the bronze dragon too. Draco Garrus Bronzo. Bronze dragons prefer to dwell in subterranean layers near substantial bodies of water such as lakes or seas. Oh, they're lawful good. Despite their love of wealth, bronze dragons are basically of beneficent nature. They often assume the form of some animal in order to observe the affairs of humans. Their breath weapons are a bolt of lightning or a repulsion gas cloud. Chromatic dragon, Tiamat. This is one of the big deal villains of D&D. Tiamat rules the first plane of the 9 hells, where she spawns all of evil dragonkind. She hates all good as fiercely as she loves cruelty and hoards wealth. She is seldom outside her lair, but occasionally comes to Earth to place a new dragon or to seek more treasure. Sheer size, can bite with all 5 of her heads and sting with her tail at the same time. Yeah, she's got a head of every dragon species that is always evil. When encountered in her lair, Tiamat will always have 5 consort/guards with her. 1 huge adult male dragon of the white, black, green, blue, and red types respectively. So she's always surrounded by her five husbands or boyfriends. Copper dragon. Draco Comes Stabuli. Copper dragons prefer arid, rocky regions. They tend to be rather selfish, and thus many copper dragons are somewhat neutral in their outlook if gain is concerned. Again with the bashing the neutral dragons. These dragons are non-voters. Its breath weapon is a discharge of acid, exactly similar to that of a black dragon, or a cloud of gas that will slow any creatures therein. Gold dragon, Draco Orientalis Dux. I'm probably mangling all of that. I don't particularly care. Gold dragons are able to dwell in any clime, but their layers are always of solid stone. Love precious metals, use jewels and pearls as nourishment. All gold dragons are lawful, just, and good. Their main breath weapon is chlorine gas. Why chlorine gas? I mean, that's cool, but why? Chlorine gas or fire, sorry. And able to cast spells. As gold dragons are so intelligent, their spells are always of the better sort, and at least half of them actually have regular spellbooks. Green dragon. Green. What? Nothing has this many. This is too many Latin names. Green dragon, Draco Chlorinus Nauseus Respiratorus. You don't have to put all of those things. Whatever. The race of green dragons prefer to locate their underground layers in or near woods or forests of the bleaker, wilder sort if possible. They are very nasty-tempered and thoroughly evil. Green dragon breathes a cloud of poisonous chlorine gas. Yeah, it always bothered it. I like that it breathes poison, but it always bothered me that it's not just a fire-breathing dragon, because a green dragon is the iconic dragon, and that's the dragon we expect to just breathe fire. I like how happy it is in its little drawing. I always liked the simplicity of its anatomy, just the fin down the back of the head and the neck. Little crocodile head. Platinum dragon, Bahamut. This is another one with a funny looking like horse head. The king of good dragons. The platinum dragon dwells in a great fortified palace behind the east wind. No one knows for certain if this place is on the elemental plane of air, or some plane betwixt it and the seven heavens, or tri-paradises. Breath weapons include a cone of cold, a cloud of vapor which causes persons therein to save versus dragon breath or lose their substance and assume gaseous form for 12 turns. So he can turn you into gas, but just temporarily. A disintegrating sonic vibration, and that's it. Those are his breath weapons. He has 7 huge ancient gold dragons as his guards, companions, and advisors. Seldom without them. Oh, a sage tells of encountering Bahamut in the guise of an old hermit with 7 canaries singing sweetly as they flitted nearby. The sage relates that he would never have known that he was anything other than what he appeared to be, except that a group of ogres and trolls happened by, much to their sorrow. dot dot dot. Red dragon is Draco Conflagratio Horribilis. Chaotic evil. The red dragon is usually found dwelling in great hills or mountainous regions. And it just breathes fire, just what you'd expect. Silver dragon, Draco Nobilis Argentum. Lawful good. Silver dragons select mountain peaks, clouds, and similar locales in which to establish their abode. It is claimed that this dragon can be found in the home of the king of good dragons as well as behind other winds as well. Breathes a cone of frost or a cloud of paralyzing gas. Oh, the little baby dragons. Just this little extra illustration with the little babies. White dragon, Draco Rigidus Frigidus. This is Rigidus Frigidus. Rigidus Frigidus is chaotic evil. Favorite chilly or cold regions, and they breathe cold. I feel like the color coding of their ability is too. It's a little too on the nose. I was never really I guess it's charming in its silliness. Dragon. A weird cross between a brass dragon and a giant lion. The dragon is both very rare and most solitary. Most dreaded weapon is its horrible roar. The sound causes weakness to all within 12 feet of the monster. The dragon has a pretty cool illustration. Yeah, I scheduled this stream for like 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and we're just barely over that point, so I should probably cut it off in a couple pages. But I'll probably also pick it up, like maybe continue where I left off, because it seems like people are enjoying this well enough. Dragon turtle. I really love the illustration of the dragon turtle. It's really nicely done in general. I think it's another one I tried to draw as well when I was a kid. I love that, like, kind of, what's the fin reminding me of? It's reminding me of a, rooster fish. I know it has a more popular name than that. Hang on, I'm looking it up again. Oh, not the rooster fish. That's another different fish. I don't know what I'm talking about. Perhaps the most feared of water creatures is the dragon turtle. They are found in very large rivers and lakes as well as in the sea. Its thick shell makes it nearly... That's it, the oarfish. Oarfish is what I was thinking of. I think sometimes those are called rooster fish, but it's like kind of fell out of use. And the dragon turtle's breath weapon is scalding steam. dwarf, we all know what a dwarf is. It's that there. That's a dwarf. I don't know why the dwarf is in the monster manual when it already has stats, for player characters. I think every possible player character species is in this book, though. Dryad. Beautiful and alluring tree sprites are found only in the most secluded places. I like that they bothered to draw a ladder inside of the Dryad's tree. Because you need, just so you know that how she gets up to the little window. Giant eagle. Just a giant eagle. Ear seekers. Ear seekers are small insectoids which are found in wood. They live by eating dead cellulose. They need warm places in which to lay their eggs and favor places like ears. No illustration. I guess it's probably just supposed to be an earwig. When the eggs hatch, the larvae eat the surrounding flesh, generally burrowing inwards to where the most food and body heat is, killing their host 90% of the time. People used to believe that earwigs actually, did that. Eels. Electric giant and weed eels. I like this drawing of the eel. I love its little face. Giant eels are typically of the moray type. They have a nasty temper and teeth to match. Weed eels are masters of camouflage, appearing as a patch of normal seaweed to any but a highly trained observer. They live in colonies, sharing food and home alike. Their bite is poisonous, venomous, and unless a saving throw is made, the creature bitten will die. Are these like the little grass eels that stick up out of the holes, but they kill you? Yeah, it says they live in little holes. Their holes will lead to a communal cave, and the eels use small stones, coins, gems, and metal to floor this cave with. Ifrit. Creatures from the elemental plane of fire. This is just like the bad genies. I think the element. I'm going to say the elementals are where we will leave this off. I will read the elementals as the last thing today. I do love the illustrations of the original elementals. I love the just a black tornado with these cute little glowy eyes. That guy. Air elemental's only mode of locomotion is by flying in quotation marks. They can, of course, move at slower than the speed listed. Upon command, an air elemental can form a whirlwind, a truncated reverse cone. I think we know what a whirlwind looks like. Monster Manual. On the elemental plane of air can be found certain intelligent air elementals, which have special abilities beyond the above. Some are stronger than the most powerful of conjured elementals. Their queen is both powerful and has certain magical abilities. They do not elaborate on that any further, I guess. So when they say queen, do they mean like the air elementals are a monarchy, or that they live like termites? Earth elemental. This is the most boring of the elementals because it's arbitrarily humanoid. There's no reason for the earth elemental to be shaped like a guy if none of the other ones are shaped like guys. This should just be like a blob of dirt, I think. A blob of dirt and rocks. These powerful creatures travel rather slowly, and in order to cross water, they must travel through the ground and go under the bed of the body of water. Possibly a long trip. On the elemental plane of Earth, there exists a boss, rumored to be of astounding size. Just a boss. Fire elemental. See, except for the Earth elemental, the original elementals are adorable. This the little candle flame shaped eyes and just no other facial features. Look at the one getting summoned. Look at its little arms. Its little fire arms up in the air. Just little like ta-da. Fire elementals are terrible to behold and fierce opponents. It's just a fire. Like it's not that terrible to behold. They set fire to any inflammable material they touch. Against fire-using opponents, they score -1 on their damage dice. On the elemental plane of fire exist many sorts of different fire elementals and similar beings. The ruler of all fire elementals is reported to be known as the Tyrant. Yeah, and then the last is the water elemental. And yeah, this is another great illustration. It's high quality, like in general, just great shading and detail and depth on this like angry wave, and then it just has just these little grumpy eyes, little grumpy dot eyes. Water elementals are, for all practical purposes, limited to water operations, for they can only stray 6 feet from their element. Normally requires a considerable volume of water or watery liquid to create a water elemental. I like that they specify watery liquid, so this doesn't have to just be water. It can be any fluid that you could ever want. Pool of water of at least 1,000 cubic feet in volume is required for this, apparently. That makes sense. That makes more sense. 60 yards. Yeah, 6 feet would be nothing. Outside their element, they are less effective. There are many other elemental forms on the plane of water. Free-willed, intelligent beings are common, as well as much more powerful elementals of the sort dealt with here. It is possible they are ruled by a godlike king. Did the elemental leaders ever did they ever become like characters or anything? Did we ever learn more about the tornado queen mom or the king of the grumpy waves? Oh, they did. In Pathfinder. Well, later in D&D, there are hundreds of elementals. There's elementals for everything. And there's like hybrid elementals and like anti-elementals and elemental creatures and elemental plants, and one of my favorites was one of the books I actually have has elemental vermin, like the rats of each elemental plane. Elephant elves. Ugh. Now, if we're ending on the elementals, we're ending just in time, so I don't have to read about elves. I'd probably just keep going with this if my voice wasn't starting to wear out. But I think this was pretty successful as a first real stream, and maybe I'll try to do this like the same time next week or something. I did find out that there's a YouTuber, I think, who he reads these books as like his main thing. I think he just goes by like the Monster Man. So I probably won't make this my main thing with streaming. I'll just try to do like a variety of stuff if I keep doing Twitch now and then for the foreseeable future. Funny enough, though, I did consider originally that I might have to take like a break after like an hour, and I kind of just forgot to. So had I taken a break, I did prepare this photo. And I also got to add let's see. There we go. I made credits. They're not very good. They don't fit the screen right. I'll have to fix that. Oh no, there we go. But yeah, thanks a lot for coming to the first real Twitch stream I've ever done. I think I probably will do it again. Yeah, I went through a lot of listened to a lot of like Creative Commons music until I found some that were like kind of like a spooky tone, I guess, but not too in your face. Somewhere I'll probably link like to the actual specific ones used in the playlist. Yeah, it's Halloween music for Halloween today. Actually, Easter is considered like the official, like halfway to Halloween. Like we are 6 months, I think, six-ish months from last Halloween. So this is like a mid Halloween stream, I guess. Halloween is also a day of goodness. It just depends on your perspective. It is currently 6:56 where I am. I think I will end exactly at 7. So got 4 minutes left. Owl House has some very good creature designs. Now that Owl House is over, I should probably maybe I'll like round up the creatures in it for an article like this Halloween season. I will be trying very hard to get Mortasheen out as soon as I can. There is still there's always so much work to do on it. I'm getting there though. I'm starting to assemble the actual book pages into a PDF. But yeah, anybody's welcome to DM me and message me, basically anything, anytime. If I don't get around to it, it's only because I'm still catching up with a lot of other messages. But yeah, it's just about 7 o'clock. Thanks for coming by again, and I think depending mainly on my sleep schedule, which is really always the problem for me, but depending on my schedule, I will try to do this again next week at the same time. I think I'll probably I'll make sure everybody knows if and when. And I guess I'll just pick up the Monster Manual from where I ended. And I hope everybody has a good rest of their day or night, depending on what time it is where you are.